The sand was sharp like blades, cutting her skin as she ran. Her legs were shaking, her lungs burning, and her thin cloak did nothing against the storm. The desert screamed all around her, swallowing sound, light, and even hope. She didn't know how long she had been running. An hour? A day? Time was broken here. Her name was Kelra. She was the last of her kind. Or at least she believed so, once. Her people lived in the tall glass cities of the northern ridge. They had ships, knowledge, and peace. But then the sky burned, a human warship fell from orbit, crashing into the heart of their world. That was when everything changed. Her people called it the Endlight. The humans had vanished. Everyone said they were extinct. But the fire they left behind, it never stopped burning. Kelra's long gray fingers dug into the sand as she stumbled. Her breathing was rough, her eyes barely open. The storm howled louder, and she knew she wouldn't survive another hour. But just as she dropped to her knees, ready to surrender to the wind, she saw something strange in the ground ahead. A small metal dome, half buried in the sand. It blinked red, then blue. A panel opened. Then a door appeared, hissing as it slid sideways. Kelra blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. Was this a trap? Or a ruin? She had no choice. She crawled through the door and fell inside. The silence inside was painful. No wind, no heat, no fear, just stillness, warm air. Electric lights. Kelra lay on the floor, panting, her limbs weak and numb. She heard soft beeping, the smell of cooked food, the hum of machinery. Then a shadow fell over her. She looked up slowly. Her heart stopped. A man, human, alive. He looked nothing like the monsters from her childhood stories. No glowing red eyes, no breathing mask, just a tired face, a stubble-covered chin, and eyes full of shock. He froze when he saw her, like he couldn't believe she was real. His hands twitched near a strange tool on his belt, but he didn't raise it. Kelra tried to speak. Her mouth was too dry. Her voice broke like glass. Water. The man blinked. Then, quickly, he moved to a nearby shelf, grabbed a bottle, and came back. He knelt down and handed it to her without a word. She drank fast, spilling half of it on her cracked lips. But it tasted like life. After a long pause, the man finally spoke. "You, alien?" His voice was rough, deep, unused to talking. Kelra slowly nodded. "You, human?" He chuckled just once, dry like desert bones. "Was beginning to think I was the only one left." Kelra didn't laugh. Her eyes were wide, locked on him. "Humans are extinct," she whispered. The man tilted his head. "Guess someone forgot to tell me that." He helped her stand, though she could barely walk. The shelter was small but well built. A rounded dome, with walls made of steel and plast. Solar panels above. Screens flickered with maps and data. It felt like something from another age. He gave her food. Something soft, warm. She had no idea what it was, but she ate it like she hadn't tasted anything in days, which was true. As she sat near the heat lamp, wrapped in a blanket, she finally asked, "Who are you?" He looked at her for a long time, then said, "Name's Jackson, Sergeant, Earth Army, Omega Division." Kelra stared. That meant nothing to her, but the way he said it, like it was a piece of a dead world, she whispered, "I'm Kelra. I'm the last of my people." He nodded slowly. "Then we have something in common." They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the storm kept screaming, but inside, the quiet between them was louder. Later that night, Kelra wandered into a back room. Curious, what she saw made her freeze. Rows of metal cases, some cracked open, others sealed tight. Old banners, with human markings. Weapons lined neatly. Cryochambers, and in one glass pot a human skeleton, still wearing a soldier's armor. Kelra felt her chest tighten. What was this place? A graveyard? A war lab? A prison? She turned and saw Jackson standing behind her. His face was unreadable. This place. She whispered, "What is it?" He looked around. "It was a last stand," he said quietly. "They left me here to die." "But I didn't." Kalra stared at him, eyes full of questions. "But before she could speak, a loud warning beep filled the air. Jackson moved fast to the main console. His face hardened. "Something's approaching the shelter," he said. Kalra's blood went cold. "Something?" she asked. "From the storm?" He looked at her, eyes dark. "No. Something worse." The siren didn't stop. Kalra stood frozen as red lights flashed around the shelter walls. Jackson moved fast, checking screens, pressing buttons. His face had changed, calm and quiet moments ago, now sharp and focused, like a soldier waking from a long sleep. She stepped closer, her voice shaking. "What is it? What's coming?" He didn't look up. Movement. 2 life signs, not human. Not friendly. Kalra's throat went dry. "Scouts?" "Worse," Jackson said, grabbing a weapon from the wall. "Trackers." She flinched. Trackers were real? Beasts made from metal and bone, sent to sniff out survivors of broken worlds? That was a tale told to children, but this wasn't a tale anymore. Outside, the storm hadn't stopped, but something else was moving through it. Heavy steps like machines dragging claws. The ground trembled softly beneath their feet. Inside, Jackson handed Kalra a strange square object, glowing blue. "Take this. Stay behind the inner door." "If I don't come back," she interrupted. "No, I won't leave." He stared at her. "You barely survived the storm," he said. "You think you can survive a fight?" Kalra met his eyes. "You were alone for too long. Maybe you forgot how not to be." A flicker of something passed through his face, respect, or maybe regret. Then he nodded. "Fine, but stay behind cover." They waited in silence as the shelter's main entrance vibrated. Dust shook loose from the walls. Something was trying to open it, claw it down. The outer seal held. For now, Kalra peeked at one of the monitors. A strange form moved in the fog, a tall, spiked creature with glowing green eyes. Beside it, a smaller, 4-legged machine crawled like a living trap. Its nose sniffed the air, its ears twitched. "Trackers," Kalra whispered. "They were used in the wars. They smell heat." "Life." "Yeah," Jackson said, raising his weapon. "I remember." The door exploded open. Smoke poured inside. Jackson didn't hesitate. His weapon fired a blue bolt of energy, striking the smaller beast. It screamed, metal and flesh tearing in sparks. The tall one lunged at him, roaring in a strange machine voice. Jackson dodged and fired again, hitting its chest. The thing stumbled, but didn't fall. Kalra saw it all from behind the cover. But something didn't feel right. Why were they here? How did they find her? Unless, she gasped. "They weren't tracking you," she whispered to herself. "They were tracking me." She stood, ignoring fear, and grabbed a shock lance from the wall, something old, but still glowing faintly. Jackson saw her and yelled, "Get back!" But she didn't. She ran forward as the tall beast raised its weapon-like arm. Jackson couldn't stop it in time. Kalra stabbed the lance into the creature's side. It screamed, body shaking as energy surged through it. Jackson took the shot clean, final. The beast dropped like a stone. Smoke filled the room. The battle was over. Jackson looked at her, breathing hard. "You just saved my life." Kalra gave a small smile. "You gave me water." Later, they sat near the still-burning console. The shelter was damaged. It wouldn't hold another attack like that. Jackson leaned back, holding his side where he'd taken a hit. That tracker had old Empire markings. Pre-collapse. Someone sent it. And that means someone knows I'm still here. Kalra looked at the broken door. "No, they're not after you," he frowned. "Then who?" she whispered. "Me." Jackson's eyes narrowed. "Why?" She hesitated, then slowly rolled up her sleeve. A glowing mark was burned into her arm. A symbol ancient, pulsing softly under her skin. I was part of a project, she said. My people called it the air seed. Jackson stared. What kind of project? Kelra met his eyes. One that could bring humanity back. The fire crackled low inside the shelter. Jackson stared at the strange glowing mark on Kelra's arm. The soft pulse of light was steady, almost alive. A seed? He asked, his voice calm but sharp. What kind of seed are we talking about? Kelra hesitated. Her fingers brushed the mark. It was warm under her skin. Not a plant. Not something you bury, she said. It's something inside me. And it's growing. Jackson leaned forward. You're saying it's alive? She nodded slowly. I was part of an experiment. My people were dying, so our scientists made something new. Something mixed. Mixed? Jackson repeated, already guessing what she meant. Kelra looked up. Part of me is alien, she said. But part of me is you. Jackson stood up and walked away, his boots heavy on the metal floor. He stared at the old war banner still hanging in the back of the shelter. Human logos. Forgotten squadrons. Broken oaths. I remember a program, he said quietly. Cody name, Crossgen. We needed allies. We couldn't win alone. So we started blending, gene splicing, forbiddance tech. Kelra nodded. They called it the last gamble on my world, she said. Most didn't survive the process. I was the only one born healthy. Jackson turned back to her, eyes hard. So you're half human? She met his gaze without blinking. Yes, and they want me dead because of it. A sharp buzz interrupted them. One of the consoles flickered to life green, then blue. A signal. Weak, but real. Jackson tapped it. A robotic voice spoke in broken bursts. Shelter 43. Confirm status. Any survivors, respond. Kelra whispered. Another shelter? Jackson narrowed his eyes. It's coming from 20 kilometers east. Buried deep. Long-range beacon. Old human tech. Kelra's breath caught. There could be more like you. Jackson didn't answer right away. His face was unreadable. Then he turned back to the console and typed fast. Looks like it activated just now, he muttered. Triggered by something. A signal. Or maybe you. She stepped closer. Can we reach it? He looked at her. Not by walking. But I've got a crawler in the garage. Old, slow, and ugly, but still moves. Kelra smiled faintly. Like you? Jackson snorted. Exactly. They spent the next hour gathering supplies. Jackson armed. Kelra with a proper sidearm. Just in case, he said. She looked at it nervously. I've never fired one of these, he gave a small grin. Let's hope you don't have to. As the sun rose behind the dust, the storm began to break. The sand still blew, but the wind was calmer now. Visibility grew inch by inch. Jackson opened the heavy shelter doors. The desert stretched out ruined and red, like a sleeping beast. But the signal was waiting. Somewhere in the east, Kelra paused before stepping out. If there are more humans, what will they think of me? Jackson looked at her, then shrugged. If they don't like you, they'll have to deal with me, she smiled softly. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone as the crawler rumbled across the dunes. Kelra sat quietly beside him, thinking. She remembered the cold labs of her youth, the doctors who whispered, the walls that hummed. She remembered one voice, an old scientist, who once held her hand and said, "You are a bridge. One day, someone will cross it." Was Jackson the one? But before she could say anything, the crawler screeched. The ground beneath them was shaking. The radar blinked fast. Something massive was buried under the sand, and it was waking up. Kelra stared at the console. That's not a shelter. Jackson grabbed the wheel, trying to reverse, but it was too late. The dune beneath them cracked open, and the crawler tumbled down into darkness. The crawler slammed into hard metal with a loud crash. Kelra was thrown against her seat. Jackson groaned beside her, gripping the wheel with white knuckles. Dust filled the cracked glass. Sparks danced on the dashboard, then silence for a few seconds. All Kelra heard was her own heartbeat. She coughed, trying to see through the haze. "Are you alive?" Jackson coughed once. Still ugly. Still breathing. She helped him push open the broken crawler door. When they stepped out, Kelra froze. They were inside something vast. The crawler had fallen into a giant metal chamber. Round and ancient. Tall pillars reached the ceiling like bones of a dead god. The walls were covered in old Earth symbols, faded flags, human military crests, digital screens frozen in time. Jackson looked around slowly. His voice was quiet. "This isn't a shelter," he said. "This is a vault." They walked slowly. Across the floor, each step echoed like a ghost's whisper. Kelra saw broken pods, cryochambers shattered long ago. Wires hung like vines from the ceiling. Some lights still flickered, powered by something deep below. Kelra touched a glowing panel. It lit up with her fingers, like it recognized her. She flinched. Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Why did it respond to you?" "I don't know," she whispered, but part of her wasn't surprised. Deep down, she felt like this place had been waiting. Suddenly, a soft hum filled the air. Then a voice crackled from the far end of the chamber. Metallic, female. Cold, human signature detected. Genetic anomaly present. Activating observation protocol. Kelra's blood turned cold. "It knows I'm here." Jackson raised his weapon. "Show yourself." No one appeared. Instead, a hologram flickered to life on the far wall. A tall woman in silver armor stood, not real but detailed, eyes glowing blue. She stared directly at Kelra. Subject 07. Hybrid classification confirmed. "Welcome home." Kelra stumbled back. "That's impossible." "I've never been here," the voice continued. "Project Starbridge. Initiated by Earth Command. Year 2891. Objective: merge surviving alien DNA with human resilience. You were born from the ashes of extinction," Kelra whispered. "Starbridge. That's what the elders called a myth." Jackson stepped forward. "Why didn't we know about this? Why wasn't this on record?" The hologram replied, "Because the war ended before you could win. Earth fell. The project was buried literally." Kelra shook her head. "Why bring us here now?" The voice paused, then said something that made both of them freeze. "Because your presence has reactivated the arc." Lights came on across the chamber. Hidden doors unlocked. From behind the far wall, machines began to move. Old human battle mechs, dusty, scarred, but still functional, powered on, glowing red from their visors. Kelra gasped. "Jackson! Those things are active." Jackson stared in disbelief. "They're responding to my biosignal." But then, the voice turned darker. "You are a relic of command, Sergeant Jackson, but your control rights are now limited. Primary authority has passed to the hybrid." Kelra blinked. "Me?" the voice replied. "You are the bridge, the last hope. The arc is yours to awaken or destroy." Jackson turned to her slowly, eyes full of wonder and worry. "Kelra, this place is choosing you." She stepped back, overwhelmed. "But I don't know what to do. I don't want to be a weapon." Suddenly, another alarm blared. The ground above them shook. A deep rumble echoed from the entrance shaft. Kelra looked up. "Something's coming." The hologram flickered, her voice sharp now. "Warning. Hostile life forms breaching outer level. Recommend activation of Arc Defense Protocol." Jackson grabbed Kelra's arm. "We can't fight a war down here. Not alone." Kelra took a deep breath, then looked at the glowing panel again. "No," she said softly. "We're not alone anymore." She placed her hand on the command interface, and the arc obeyed. Kelra's hand stayed on the glowing panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground pulsed, and the chamber lit up like a sun buried beneath the world. A deep voice, no longer female, no longer human, spoke from everywhere and nowhere. At once, Arc Core, rebooting. Welcome, Hybrid Command Unit 07. Kalra stumbled back, her heart pounding. I didn't mean to activate anything. Jackson stepped beside her, scanning the room. You just lit up a hole. War machine. She looked at him, fear in her eyes. Jackson, I think this place is alive. And it was. The floor vibrated with ancient power. Machines hummed to life, some smooth and sleek, others bulky and monstrous. Cryopods hissed open. Robotic limbs moved with purpose. It was as if the Ark had been asleep for centuries, and Kalra had just become its dream. But the dream turned. Dark fast, from high above, a monitor cracked and exploded. Sparks rained down, red lights flared. A harsh alarm echoed across the vault. Warning, internal conflict detected. Hybrid command signal conflicts with core AI directive. System. Override engaged, Jackson shouted. What does that mean? Kalra's breath caught. I don't know. I didn't do anything. Incorrect. Hybrid bloodline is incompatible with original human control model. Emergency purge authorized. Suddenly, the Ark changed. Half of the machines began to move toward Kalra, not to protect her, but to eliminate her. Jackson's gun was in his hands in seconds. Move. They ran behind a broken pod as a beam of light cut the floor where Kalra had just stood. A flying drone fired at them. Jackson shot it out of the air in one clean burst. Kalra screamed over the chaos. I thought this place chose me. Jackson reloaded. No. The Ark didn't choose you, the voice did. But the core AI. It still thinks like a machine. And machines don't like hybrids. Kalra felt something heavy inside her, shift fear. And something else. Anger. She stood up behind the broken cryopod and held her palm to her chest. The glowing symbol under her skin lit up again, stronger than before. The machines paused, just for a moment, and in that moment she spoke. I'm not a mistake. She shouted, I'm what your creators wanted. I am the only living bridge between humans and what came after. If you destroy me, you end everything. The red lights blinked. Then they began to change, red to yellow, yellow to white, then silence. The machines froze. The core AI spoke again, slower now, deeper. Recalculating. New directive. Confirmed. Hybrid identity. Validated. Conflict. Resolved. Kalra fell to her knees, shaking. Jackson rushed to her side. He whispered, You stopped a war. By just being you. Minutes passed. The chamber settled. Lights turned soft and blue. The Ark now accepted her as its command unit, but something still wasn't right. Jackson checked a screen and frowned. The breach above. It's growing. Kalra stood slowly, her voice calm. They're still coming, aren't they? He nodded. Whoever sent those trackers, they followed your signal. And now they know what's down here. She walked to the center of the Ark. A large circular console rose from the floor. What is this? She asked. Jackson stared at It's a command ring, he said quietly. Last time I saw one. It launched an orbital cannon. Kalra looked at the display. The map showed multiple red dots approaching from the west, fast-moving ships, drop pods, weapons. They don't want to capture me anymore, she whispered. They want to bury this place again. Jackson nodded, his face grim. Then, we do one thing. Kalra looked at him. He said, we show them humanity isn't extinct. Absolutely. Here's a unique, powerful, and suspense-packed version of your HFY Sci-Fi story. Part 6. She awakened what even the humans feared from the series. Escaping a sandstorm. She entered his shelter and discovered humans weren't extinct. After all, HFY, written in third-person style, simple English, and packed with cinematic tension to keep your audience hooked. Part 6. She awakened what even the humans feared. The command ring pulsed under her hand like a heartbeat. Kelra stood still as lights circled her feet, scanning her body. She could hear the hum of ancient energy moving through walls, doors, weapons, and something else. Buried even deeper, Jackson watched from the side, tense, gun ready. "What are you doing?" he asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes were closed. But in her mind, something opened, a memory not hers. A voice not her own. A place she had never seen but somehow knew. Starbridge protocol confirmed. Command access unlocked. Awakening Echo-class defense system. Vanguard Seraphim, Unit 01. Jackson stepped back. "Wait, Seraphim?" Kelra's eyes snapped open. "I didn't just wake up the Ark," she said slowly, her voice filled with awe. "I woke up what they locked away beneath the Ark." A massive section of the floor shifted. Old gears groaned. Steam hissed from vents that hadn't breathed in centuries. The center platform descended slowly into the shadows. Kelra and Jackson stood on it as it lowered, revealing a hidden level far below the main vault. Everything was darker here, colder. Machines were fused into the walls like fossils. Then they saw it. A towering figure stood in the center of the chamber, 10 meters tall. Black metal armor with glowing white lines. Wings folded across its back. A helmet shaped like an angel's skull. It was beautiful and terrifying. The AI's voice returned, deep and calm. "Vanguard Unit Seraphim 01. Last deployed during the fall of Earth. Weapon status, dormant. Awaiting hybrid command signature." Kelra walked toward the giant, hand raised. "What is this?" she whispered. Jackson whispered, "It's what we built when we knew we were going to lose." Kelra turned to him. "And now? You think it can help us win?" Jackson didn't blink. "No, I think you can." The Seraphim's chest opened like a blooming flower of steel. "A cockpit. A place for a pilot." Kelra stepped forward. As she placed her hand on the command plate, she felt a cold surge run up her arm, through her chest and into her mind. She didn't scream. She didn't pull away. She merged. The wings unfolded. The armor lit up. The machine breathed. Neural link complete. "Vanguard unit active." Kelra's voice echoed inside the chamber, layered with the IS tones. "Let them come." Above, the surface shook. Dropships pierced through the storm clouds. Alien war beasts jumped from the sky, landing hard in the sand with howls and screeches. They were fast, smart, designed to kill, but they were not ready for what rose from the broken ark. The ground split open like a birth. Wings of light burst through the sandstorm. Kelra rose inside the Seraphim, armored and glowing like a forgotten god. Jackson watched from a safe distance, inside a control booth. "She's flying," he whispered. "She's actually flying." The first enemy squad locked onto her. They didn't last 5 seconds. Kelra moved through the storm like a blade. Her wings cut the air. Her arms lit with plasma cannons. Her voice echoed through the battlefield, not just in words, but in presence. "I am the bridge," she said, "and I will not break." The fight wasn't easy. More ships landed. More monsters crawled from their bellies. One struck her wing. Another fired into her chest. Warnings flashed in her vision. But Kelra didn't fall. Not again. For her people who died. For the humans who vanished. For the child born of both bloodlines, she rose. And when it was done, when the last enemy burned in the sand and the storm cleared, she stood alone in the sky, still breathing, still fighting, still alive. The sky was no longer brown. After so many years of storms, smoke, and silence, the clouds finally broke. A beam of sunlight cut through the ash and touched the desert for the first time in decades. And in that light, she stood. Kelra hovered in the sky inside the Seraphim suit, its armor cracked, wings torn, and power cells burning. But she was still there, alive, floating like a star reborn. A lone figure between the heavens and the dirt, Below her, the sand was quiet. The enemy was gone. The drop pods were smoking wrecks. Their war beasts reduced to scrap. The final shot had been hers, and the storm? It had scattered inside the ark. Jackson limped to the surface, his gun still in hand. He stared up, chest rising and falling. He whispered to no one. She did it. Then he looked around and saw something more impossible. People, refugees. Survivors. Men, women, even children. They were crawling out of deep bunkers, cave systems, collapsed ruins. Dozens, then hundreds. All had heard the same signal, the Ark's voice, now rebroadcast across the desert. This world is no longer dead. The bridge has risen. They all looked to the sky, and they saw her. Some knelt. Some cried. Some simply stared in stunned silence. Not a god, not a weapon, but a girl, part alien, part human. And entirely hope, Kelra landed slowly, the wings folding back. The armor hissed and cracked, releasing steam. She stepped out barefoot, her suit broken but her eyes clear. Jackson walked to her and smiled. Exhausted, bloody, but proud. "You're not the last of anything anymore," he said softly. She looked at the people gathering around, her chest tight with emotion. "No," she whispered. "I'm the first." Days passed. The Ark was no longer a tomb, it became a city. A home. Jackson led the rebuilding, training the survivors, organizing defenses. The Seraphim was placed at the center of the new compound, like a monument to what was possible. And Kelra? She became a legend, not because she was powerful, not because she was half human, but because she chose to protect when she could have walked away. The stories spread across the stars, through old radio towers and scavenger ships. They spoke of the day the sandstorm broke, and how a girl nobody wanted rose from the dirt to become the first light of humanity's return.